So brief summary for those who will watch the recording. We just did a Venn diagram. So in these spheres on the left-hand side, really, I think we just started with one quality that we inherited. It can be from the patrilineal side, father's side, could be adopted father's side, or it could even be larger culture's side. And on the right side, we did a quality that we inherited from our mother's side or matrilineal side. And in the center, a way in which we would like to transform that quality as ourself in this lifetime. So we're going to now bring this to the astrological piece, and we have some questions inspired by the astrological moment to help us dig deeper into this.
So we got these qualities that we, from coming from other or opposites or two sides of our families or our support system, that we might be trying to reconcile. And somebody said they start with good qualities. So they could be two good qualities that are so different from each other, we don't quite know how to relate them. But maybe you came up with something in the center. So for those of you that are astrologically inclined and you have a chart in front of you, take one of those center qualities and check out an opposition in your chart. And you might ask yourself, how might that center quality in the Venn diagram that you select help you to bridge an opposition in your chart? Okay, I have an opposition between Jupiter and Mercury, okay, in the 10th and 4th houses. Okay, so I'll pick one of those words. For me, one word was renewal. And I'll try to think, what does this opposition mean in my chart? How does it show up in my life? Yeah, opposition meaning across from each other, 180 degrees. So like a straight line. Yeah. So first you might consider, how's opposition show up in my life? And how might that center quality help you to balance or bridge the two sides of that opposition? Yeah, that's a great question. If someone doesn't have a planetary opposition, should they look at houses or other aspects? Yes,
So
and we're going to. We've got a couple other questions coming.
So we're giving you a menu of questions, and you'll choose. We'll show them to you later as a menu, and you can choose one to dive into.
We'll just take about a minute here to do some initial thinking.
Oh, I thought we were going to show them all in one first.
Can we pull up a chart so we can see it on a chart? Sure, I think we could bring up a chart, knowing that the chart that we bring up is going to be different from everyone's. But maybe if we look at the one of today. Yeah, if we look at the chart of the moment. Okay. So on this chart, if we look at the sun, which is in Leo at 28 degrees. Okay. And if we look at. Can
you highlight that, Renee?
Renee's like, yo, I'm doing this exercise. So we look at the sun there, and then approximately 180 degrees across, we see Saturn, which kind of looks like an H with a, a cross and an H together. And they're about 180 degrees across from each other in a circle. That's our opposition aspect. And in a lot of astrology softwares, you'll see it symbolized as a red line, okay? Or depicted as a red line. So take a look at your chart and see if you can find two planets that are basically 180 degrees opposite of each other, right? Like in a straight line from each other. Okay. And if folks have questions, if you see, let's say you got a Venus and a Saturn, and you might have a curiosity about what that means, throw your question out there, and then either Michelle and I can respond to it, or other folks in the chat could respond to it. And we're just going to take a few moments with each of these questions, and then we'll have more time to explore them in breakout groups. Great. A Venus opposing Saturn. Okay. Sun Virgo opposing Mars.
So with the Venus opposing Saturn, I'm assuming, and I'm not the astrologer here, but structures. Is there a way in which like your way of like loving and showing affection is opposed to structure? And is there something that you wrote in that middle column that could help you kind of navigate those two things that may be seen as opposites, like structure and rigidity, and love and affection and care?
Mm.
Is there something in there that could help you mediate that?
Mm-hmm. We see here from, Renee put the degrees, 10-degree orb.
Mm.
We got from Habib, Neptune, 5th house, opposed Mars, 11th house, right? So a Neptune 5th house, you maybe might have a capacity to really go deep into creativity or really get absorbed in having fun. And then the Mars in the 11th house, there might be dreams or work in the world, or I don't know, groups that you're a part of that you're really trying to get something accomplished with. And that Neptunian absorption and that like drive to like actualize your ideals might be at odds with one another at certain points. You might not know how to do both or run from one or the other. So you might see if there's one of those words in the center of the Venn diagram that might help you relate those two, harmonize them. Okay, so there's so much we could do here. And if you want to come back to this, we'll have a chance to, but we're going to keep on moving.
I think the way to see this is if you are well versed in astrology, or if you are at the place where you're like, oh, I have this opposition in my chart and I'm always thinking about it, or I'm always worried about it, that maybe there's something in this Venn diagram that can help you with that. And if you aren't as well versed in your chart, then maybe this question isn't the one that you need to steep in for now. We're going to give you some more questions.
Mm-hmm. So if we could jump ahead, or actually, let's see. Well, let's see if maybe we can just read the question and lead the chart up. So we're going to go to the next set of questions that are astrological. I saw somebody here said, I don't have an opposition. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, now we're going to move to a 4th house question. Okay, and on the chart that Renee has up still, the 4th house is where Saturn is. Yeah. Okay, so you'll be looking for that, and then you see a small number 4 right up near that central circle. If you're using a software that's similar to this, you'll see a 4 here in this division. Okay, so the question for the 4th house is choose one quality in the center of the Venn diagram. How is it reflected in your home space? And if not, how might you enhance or grow that quality in your home space? Okay.
So like in my example, I had showed, I had honoring the past as something in the center. Yes. How do we do it? So
Let's see.
Okay. So rooted in the past. So then I kind of look at my home space, thinking about the 4th house. I look at my home space. And I'm like, if someone were to walk into my house, would they really know that I'm rooted in looking at the past? Like, is that something you can sense in my space? And actually, even if it is it as much as it could be? So for me, I am actually thinking, I don't think it's that reflected in my home space. And I can think of a couple things. It can be as simple as like, for me, we have one small mezuzah up, but I've been meaning to put one up. That was my grandmother's that I never put up. Thinking about like Ramon has some of these photographs you all saw of his ancestors in an altar in his closet, but we don't have those pictures out. Like the kids don't really see them, and people who come and visit don't see them. So what are the ways that we can change our space? And it doesn't just have to be art. It can be, in our looking at the past, food is very important. And, maybe we used to have the table up against the wall. So how can we like bring it out and make it a more central piece?
So yeah, so if you have, okay, in mine, one of the things I have is improvisation in the center, the quality. And if I look around my house, I'm like, actually, this house is totally improvised. Right? But you might say, if improvisation is something that's important to you, but you see that your house is very, I don't know, maybe it's very plain or everything's in its right place, but it's missing some character or some space. How much you rearrange the furniture, the posters, the way you've organized your closet, and just start to jot down some ideas or just take a look around your space. Yeah. Yeah. If the fourth house is empty, one interpretation of that is that you don't have a lot of energy in that part of your life. It's not a big challenge. It's not a big source of thrill. It's not a big place where you experience pushback. But here's the thing. Everybody is the entire zodiac and all the houses. Everybody's actually everything. But in some of our lives, some places are louder, more pronounced, need more attention, or areas of growth more. But you still have a home. You still have a rootedness in self. You still have a rootedness in ancestry, right? So you can still check that out, right? And you might have some transits moving through your fourth house, or some planets transiting through your fourth house. But anyway, as Michelle said, just look around your house, right? Or you don't have to do that prompt, okay? If the first prompt is more interesting, if you got an opposition in your chart, work that opposition. Okay, believe it or not, we're gonna go to the next question. Okay, and we're putting them all in the chat, and we'll have time to work with them some in our groups.
Are there any qualities in the center of the diagram? That's funny, Gretchen. You're not even in your own house. Are there any qualities in the center of the diagram that maybe have been exaggerated in your life, and that maybe they are a useful tool and a useful way to transform things, but they've become a go-to for everything, maybe even when it's inappropriate, and maybe are now becoming a pattern of shadow or self-sabotage? So, even the example I gave you before, that maybe was something that was good and I want to see more of in my home, like being more rooted, or being looking to the past and honoring the past. That could become a form of self-sabotage. That could become a way of like not looking forward, not being present, not making decisions on my own, right? So are there any ways, this is a question inspired by the 12th house, which can be a house of self-undoing. So are there any qualities in that center of the Venn diagram that you kind of know you need to be watchful for, that you need to make sure you use in a wise, appropriate, discerned way at the right time? The next question is inspired by Saturn. So again, we're looking at the qualities in the Venn diagram. Do any of those qualities support your inner authority? Or do you see them reflected authorities in your life, or in the ways in which you would want to be a leader? We talked at the beginning about how, this is a time where we've kind of been looking at new forms of leadership. I think about the Occupy movement. That really started saying we want to be a leaderful movement. There's no leader. This is a hub of networks coming together. So is there something in there that could really give you a clue as to what type of leader you want to be, and or the type of leaders you want to look for?
Mhm. And if you're looking at your chart, Saturn is the symbol that looks like an H and a cross kind of combined. It's like an H with a cross T, sort of.
Yeah, on the screen, it's at the bottom
Uh-huh.
on the right.
Mhm. Okay, so, you know, if you've got Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn and Aquarius like each other. Um, depending, Saturn is a ruler of Aquarius. So, you know, Aquarius is like to build structures or transform structures, oftentimes thought structures or patterns of relationship between people. Okay. So, you know, you might be looking at and Saturn shows us how we, our Saturn placement shows us how we express our center, our sense of authority and how we might meet authority figures in our lives. Okay. It can also show us something about how we received, like what our impression was of authority from an early age and what we may have internalized or tried to reject because it wasn't a healthy way of authority. Okay, where on screen?
I think Renee highlighted
Got it.
And that's the chart of the current moment.